And we're going to start out by talking about the problems that we worked on yesterday. So, this is the type of problem we're used to doing. You just took the quiz on this yesterday. And here's kind of the scenario that I set up for you. I said, okay, you promised your little brother or sister that if they come along with you, think about like when spring gets here, right? And your yard's a mess because people didn't rake in the fall like they're supposed to in the snow. When the snow melts, your gardens need like fixing. Or in the fall when you need to rake leaves. Or in the snow when you need to blow snow. Has anybody ever gone around and just said, hey, I'll shovel your lawn or your walk for $10? Yeah, okay, it's a way to make money. So let's say you did that and you said to your little brother or sister, come with me and I'll give you 1% of what I make. And usually you give them like a really small amount and make them do most of the work, right? While you sit on your phone or something. Okay, so anyways, here's what the problem is that we've been doing. I promised my brother 23%. I say, whatever I make, I will give you 23% of it. It's never 50-50, right? Okay? So, the problem was this. And this box right here was for the statement. So basically, aren't you just trying to figure out what is 23% of 85, right? Okay, so go ahead in that box and write that. So you're trying to figure out what is 23% of 85. This box is in bold because it's really important. This is the question that you want to answer with an equation and with a proportion, okay? So then I take this question and translate it up here into an equation, right? Bless you. So, what is, I should say what number is. Anytime you say what is, isn't that your x value? So, what number is, and then when we write 23%, we write it as whatever we would punch into our calculator, right? Of means times, and 85 is just good old 85, right? Okay? Nothing new. You're like, I know, I get this. We just did this yesterday. I'm just kind of showing you. So 23%, then you did of 85, and you promised your brother, it didn't work out, or I'm sorry, you owe your brother $19.55, right? So you pay him $19.55, okay? If we did that as a proportion, didn't you just take this 23% and write it like that? Yeah? And then you said, how much do I owe him? Out of $85. So the placement of the proportion today is helpful for you to know what we do next. Then you said 100x equals, and trust me, it's going to be 1,955. How do I know it's going to be that amount? Yeah, because I'm going to end up moving it and getting this as an answer, right? But technically what you should do, because what if you messed up on the calculator here? Do you ever punch a number that you think you did, but it was the one next to it or something? Your answer's off. So technically, I should go ahead and do 23 times 85 just to make sure. And when you divide by 100, you don't need the calculator for that. Move it over 2, and your answers should match. Okay, that was yesterday. Just a refresher. Here's the spin on today. The spin on today is this. I say to my brother, whatever money I make, I'm going to give you some of it. Does he come out and say what percent? No, I just said I'll give you some of it. So let's say the day is done, you shoveled all the snow, you've raked all the leaves, you sit down, you have a cup of hot cocoa, and you count your money. And you ended up making $47. You hand 16 of that over to your little brother. So the question is what? You don't know the percent, do you? So what percent of my $47 did I give him? If it ended up being $16. Do you see where we're flip-flopping it? Before you knew the percent, you didn't know how much to give him. Today, you're going to know how much you give him, but you don't know the percent. So we're going to do it 2 ways. And then, again, after this lesson, you can choose whichever way is easiest for you. So you know your goal, what we're trying to do? Okay, I need this sentence then. So let's think about this sentence right here. So think about what this would mean. What 16, I'll do the first one for you. 16 is what percent of 47. See, write that and then read it and see if it makes sense to you. $16 is what I gave my little brother for helping me. I made a total of 47. What percent did I pay him? So does that sentence make sense to you? All right. Because now we have to translate it. Coming up with this box is really important. Are you ready? One word at a time. 16 is 16. Is means equals, right? What percent? I know what you're thinking. Should you put a percent sign here? Anytime you don't know something, in algebra, you use what? An X. Good. What percent? That means what percent? That little X? Of means times 47. Now I want you to stop and look at that. And that doesn't really look like anything we've done before. We've multiplied a variable times a coefficient before, a number, but it doesn't look like that. What does it look like? Looks like just what? 47x, doesn't it? Do you agree that x times 47 is the same as 47x? Yes. And if you didn't, then now you know. You should know that, okay? So $16 is what percent of 47? Now what do? What does it look like to you? What kind of an equation? It's a multiplication equation that we solve using the division property. Now I'm going to just work the calculator up here for now. Then you type in the 16 first, divide it by the 47, and that pops up. Okay? But wait a second. I want to show you. This is what we did third hour, and we realized that we've been using our phones for a calculator, but when I said 16 divided by 47, I got that big old thing. And this fancy calculator lets you set your float, which controls your decimal, and this really doesn't, does it? So you kind of have to look at this and say, don't forget, should I put 0.34 as my answer? What question is it asking me? What percent? And if 0.34 is the decimal, then what percent is it? Yeah, it's 34. You just move it back over, don't you? So you can go ahead, and you don't have to write the 0.34. You can go ahead and transfer it right to a percent as you want. So I gave my little brother 34% of my money that I earned. Yes? You could write x equals 34. You could write 34 equals x. However you want to do it, yes. Okay? So we want to think about using our calculator today back here and not on our phone. Okay? Let's do this one. We'll get to the proportion in a minute. All right, I go to the restaurant. By the time I've paid for my tip and my food, that turns out to be $78 total. Of that amount, 15 of it was the tip. So, the total amount I leave, so what percent tip did I leave? Okay? So, what would I do here? First of all, we want to focus on what our question is. So, what question am I trying to figure out? Karina.
15 is what?
Good. 15 is, oops, sorry, I'm already writing the equation. 15 is what percent of the $78? My whole food total didn't come to $78 because $15 was the tip. So what did I leave? Okay? So now that I have that, let's write our equation like I started to do. 15 is what percent of 78? But we really write it 78x. You know what I'll tell you? If you think you can go right to the 78x and not write that step, then don't. You don't need to write that. Okay? 15 is what percent of 78? And now what do? Like, once you get that written, you're home free. Yeah, Ethan, just divide. And then I take my calculator and I say 15 divided by 78, and I get that. So what percent tip did I leave? 19. Move it over. 19% equals the tip that you left. Okay? Yeah.
So we don't even need solving.
Yep, we're going to do that next. Because technically, I kind of think the solving with a proportion is easier. You're going to see why. I think maybe people thought the opposite yesterday. So let's now scooch over to this part. I think it's kind of easier. So first of all, nothing changes here, does it? Still starts with that. But before we do that really quickly, I just kind of want to do a quick review and see if you agree with me on this. When we had our proportion, like up here, this number always stayed 100, didn't it? Okay, so that one was always 100. What was the number on top of that? It was always the percent that was given, right? So whatever percent you're talking about, put it there over 100. This was the total amount, like the total money you made shoveling, the total that your food bill came to, the total, right? And what was the top number? It was always X, but what did X represent? It was the part of the total that we were looking for, right? So the part of the whole amount down there, right? Okay? So like 16 out of $84 or so it was always part of this total, wasn't it? Okay. So, keeping that in mind, let's go and put our 100 and you're going to totally get it. So watch. Usually what went there? The percent, like 23. But guess what? It's now X. Because that's what I'm trying to find. I don't know the percent. That's what I'm on the hunt for. Which means now I have 2 more spaces to fill in. And what goes where? Yes. Good. She knew, and here's what I want you to visualize. I want you to visualize the word total. Isn't that what the denominator of a fraction represents? So the total that I made was 47, and how much of that did I give him? 16. And you're done. Okay? Well, setting it up, you're done, because now you have to work it out. So here's the thing that you're going to do. Last time I did 100 times x, and I always had 100x, didn't I? 100x? Well, the x kind of shifted over, so you're not going to have 100x every time. You're going to have whatever this is, right? And then you're going to do 100 times 16. Turn your paper over and take notes, please. Which is a 16 with 2 zeros. Right? I haven't even needed a calculator. I needed a calculator before, didn't I? I don't now. It's just that. And now divide by 47. And I should get what? 34%. So let's take 1600 and divide it by 47. Now, look for a second. Do you think I need to move any decimals over? No. It's already in percent form. That is my answer, 34 4/4%. I don't need to move it over. The reason being is I already counted this percent because I put that 100 there. So you can go right to your answer from there. When your answer is a decimal like that, you have to know to make it that a percent. Let's do another one. Ready? So this is always 100. $78 is what I left. Yeah.
Could we put the numbers after the decimal?
If you want to, yeah. Yeah, you could put 0.04. I'm just going to have you do full, whole numbers. I don't know what percent I left, but I do know that out of the $78, that what? 15 of it was the tip. Okay? So now look, I have 78 times x, which is 78x. And then I have what? That equal to what? Are you seeing a pattern? You're never going to need a calculator for this, because it's always going to be that number with 2 zeros, right? So 1500 I'll need a calculator for this. So let's take this, divide by 78, and x is, it should equal, now here's the thing. Do you think you should use your calculator, or you know it's just going to be 19? Well, you do know if you did it right, but have you ever done something and maybe pushed the wrong button? Like, what if you pushed the wrong button here when you divided, and you pushed to 77, and that's wrong, isn't it? So if you don't double check it both ways, then you may have two wrong answers. So let's do 1,500 divided by 78, and it's 19.23%. You're just going to keep it 19%, okay? If that was 19.5 or 6 or 7 or 19.8 or 9, you would make that 19 into a 20%. Got it? Okay, so here's what I want you to do right now is try this last one on your own. See if you can come up with the sentence that is going to lead us to our equation, which is really important. Look up at the other two for help. Joseph, I'll go over this with you. And then see if you can write and solve the equation, set up and solve the proportion. You may go ahead and grab your calculators because I know you're going to need them. So whenever you need to do that. It might, but you know what? Just use calculators. Yeah, I know. That was, you didn't have one handy, but. Okay, so you ready to watch this? I'll go over with you once again. I want you to look at the top one. So go ahead and copy that in first, show, okay? The top one is how we did it, yesterday and the day before. Yeah. Okay, just hit clear, and then it should work until it gives it a couple days before it dies. All right, who thinks they've got it? If you get your answers to match, that's a good thing. I'll give you a minute to figure that out while I start to write the little sentence here. I think so, yeah. Yep, good job, Erin Nicole. Oops. Yeah. All right, just grab whatever's available. Okay. 22 is what percent of 65? So 22 is what percent of 65? I'm curious, how many of you just went right to 65x? Good. Then you divided by 65, 65. And when you did that, did you get 33? Okay. Okay, well then let me see. 22, yes. Yes, because, yeah. It should be 34. Sorry, I was thinking of the... So, Erin Nicole, if you would have gone out one more, then you would have seen that it would have rounded up. Yes?
Is it okay if we didn't do the 65x?
I want you to set up the equation, yeah, because part of it is going to be, do you know how to set it up? Okay, so I want you to set it up like that. And then the proportion should look like this. What percent? So, Joe, you walked in a little late. We don't know the percent today. So that's what we're trying to find. So that's why that is our x. And what percent of 100 is 22 out of 65? And that's where you do your 65x is equal to 2200. Divide by 65. And x is equal to, that's where you get your 34. Okay, here's the deal. If you ever are in 8th grade or outside of school and you get to a problem where you have to figure a percent out of a number and your teacher's not going to make you show it using an equation in a proportion and you want to figure it out however you want to, you know what you do? You just say 22 out of 65. And you pick up a calculator and you say 22 out of 65. And then you hit enter and you move it over 2 places. Right? So if you need to do it quick, without worrying about all this fancy stuff like I'm requiring you to do, you divide the how many out of. So look at it. If I were to say $16 out of 47, it's 34, isn't it? Oh, that's weird that the answers were exactly the same percent. Okay? All right. You think you got this? All right, so